All right, so what's up, beautiful people? It's your boy Justin Martin, and today we're going to be talking about my current workflow and why I moved from Premiere to Final Cut Pro, and then I've actually added on DaVinci. Do I want an intro? Yeah, so I've been using Final Cut Pro for the past maybe 5 months, 6 months since I switched over when I was down in Miami. And one probably the main reasons why I switched over, and I got a lot of flack, but the main reason was just optimization and speed. And if you ever use Final Cut Pro on the Mac, you know that it's a lot quicker when it comes to rendering, exporting, and just a much more cleaner workflow for the Mac ecosystem versus Adobe. But before I dive even more into this, I just want to say this is nothing like scientific. This is based on my experience as an editor and as an independent filmmaker and finding the best workflow that works for what I need to do. And so, a little backstory, I've been using Premiere since college, my sophomore year of college. So that's about 6 years or so. That was pretty much the standard of any editing platform in terms of getting into it right off the bat. Adobe has an incredible lineup of softwares that can help you be a very efficient creative. And so, yeah, I've been using that for years, documentaries, short films, YouTube stuff. So coming from that, I've always had these, well, not just me, but most people who use Adobe have had these issues, these crashes. Sometimes your work doesn't save, exporting, rendering, all the kind of normal stuff. But to me, over time, Adobe hasn't really addressed this problem, which is kind of sad to say, because this is pretty much the empire of like creative software in terms of what you can get as a bundle. And sure, like from my understanding from other people who've used it, it's always a mixed bag. It's a mixed bag of how this program's been working for them versus been working for other people, so versus PC and Mac. So it depends, like, the softwares that you're using, the type of computer that you have. Yeah, all those are variables. But just like me, I've always had a Mac. I've tried to spec it out as much as possible, but just the software doesn't run as efficient as an optimized program, Final Cut Pro. So that being said, I guess I switched over to Final Cut Pro. I've already purchased it. I purchased it in 2010 when they first announced the new update, Final Cut Pro 10. And at that time, it was just a glorified, in my opinion, a lot of other people's opinions, a glorified iMovie. So I bought it for $300, didn't use it for like 3 years after that. And then I started going back and forth. So it was just always this up and down. Like most people, most independent filmmakers kind of have this love-hate relationship of figuring out what the workflow is going to be. That being said, moving till now, I switched over because it was just a much faster workflow. Now, some of the problems I ran into that I was already used to with that I was already used to with Premiere is that it came ready out of the box. Like you had everything you needed in Premiere, and if you want to add on After Effects, add on Audition, Media Decoder, it had everything you needed right off the bat. Moving to Final Cut Pro, it was completely starting over. Like, you had to get extra plugins. There's not even an option for adjustment layers, which kind of blew my mind. And that's how I used to work. I'd use adjustment layers to do all my color correcting and kind of separate everything, kind of like that Photoshop knowledge, use your layers. Anyway, but so comparing Final Cut Pro to Premiere, Final Cut Pro always seemed half-baked. There was a lot of things you had to add on. And I did just suck that up and try to find resources, free resources and paid resources to beef up my Final Cut Pro, because the one thing that kept coming up for me was the speed and rendering time and reliability. Now, Final Cut Pro does crash, but not as often as Premiere. And when it does crash, every time it completes a render, it saves. That's what I believe it does, because every time I reopen it after it crashes, it's exactly where I need it to be. I don't have to create these auto-save profiles every 3 minutes, 5 minutes or so. And in case you didn't know that, in Premiere, you can fix how often your auto-save feature turns on, and you just go into Preference, General, and then Autosave. And then the standard is 15 minutes. That's ridiculous on a Mac. 15 minutes is a long time for a lot of things to be lost and you have to go back to the beginning. So I would put that down to 3 or 5 minutes. So that was kind of like relieving. So there's like less stress when it came to reliability when moving to Final Cut Pro. And then now, I wouldn't say I got a lot of flack, but a lot of people are questioning me, oh, how come you're using these LUTs in Final Cut Pro? You should be using DaVinci. And I've always seen DaVinci. I've always heard about it, a great, color editing platform. Wow, can't talk. Great color editing software, and that was pretty much somewhat of a standard in all independent filmmaking and even in professional level Hollywood filmmaking. So and I'm not a colorist. I'm straight up not a colorist. So that wasn't like appealing to me. But now in 2018, I'm getting more into color because nobody else is going to do it for me right now. So as I'm learning, I picked it up, and Resolve 15 has it's pretty robust actually. It's a nice middle ground, I think, between Premiere and Final Cut Pro. But it was jarring at first to open it up and figure out how to navigate through it. But I like how, one of the things I like about DaVinci Resolve as an editing platform, not just a coloring platform, is the way it's sectioned off. So in comparison with the other two softwares, let's say I just want to organize my stuff. And you can do that in your bins in Premiere, as well as your file structure before you go into Final Cut Pro. And you can do those things on the side, but in Resolve, you have your media management right in front of you before you get into your editing. And it uses bins, it uses keywords, just like you expect in any other non-linear editing platform. I like that feature, but not just that, but it's every tab in Resolve is focused. So you have your organization, you have your editing, you have your color, you have your fusion, you have your Fairlight, and so on and so forth. And you do have those tabs in Premiere and now workspaces in Final Cut Pro. But with Premiere, even though you're in a color tab, you can still edit audio. And some people like that. I feel like it just kept me getting distracted, because once I bring in my project in Premiere, I'll start editing. I'm like, okay, I want to do some color editing. So I'll throw in a LUT, whatever. And next thing I'm not even finished cutting up my piece, I'm jumping to audio, I'm jumping to coloring. So I guess it's more of like a self-discipline thing. But anyway, yeah, it's just always readily there. And some people like it, some people don't. I'm moving away from that because I just want to be focused on one thing at a time, be very methodical of my workflow. Final Cut Pro was similar like that. It always had your color, your audio, everything accessed right there. But within DaVinci, if you're in your editing tab, you're in your editing tab. And then if you want to kind of follow on that workflow, you can in succession as you go along. That's probably one of the bigger, just the overall look of Resolve that I like. Another thing is just it's like I said, it's reliable and robust like Final Cut Pro on your Mac. Right now I'm just using the free version, so there are some limitations in terms of like I try to edit an anamorphic clip in Resolve, but I couldn't exceed, I think there's a cap with resolution in the free version. So what I had to do, I had to divide my resolution, because I can edit a 6K anamorphic in Final Cut Pro, but I had to do half of that resolution in Resolve in order for it to actually read the files and work. And also the 4K cinema files can't read in the free version on Resolve for the GH5. I guess, I don't know why. It just reads it as a audio file and it says no video. That was my experience right now. So yeah, I know a lot of you have asked me what are my thoughts right now. I haven't completely moved over to Resolve. Right now I'm just doing round tripping. So right now my workflow is editing in Premiere. Right now my workflow is editing in Final Cut Pro. And then as I do my cuts and graphics, actually graphics are last. So let me start over. So my workflow right now between Resolve and Final Cut Pro, I ingest everything in Final Cut Pro because it renders the files fine. There's no limitations on this program versus the free version of Resolve. So I do all the encoding and rendering there. I'll cut it up, do all the proper audio corrections or whatever, and getting my video set up to where I needed to. And then what I'll do, I'll export my XML file to Resolve to do my color grading now. Still working on that process, but I'll put it in there, do the coloring, and export it out. Now, one thing I did notice, the colors did shift. Two things I noticed. One, I don't have the proper editing environment for color grading. You shouldn't have a black wall. This is purely aesthetic. My wife and I, we painted this, we love it, but in terms of editing, it's not ideal. You want a neutral gray. So I'm eventually going to paint a foam core and put it behind my desk if I'm going to be color grading. But I noticed that the colors shifted. Now, it might be my eyes, or when I round tripping it back to Final Cut Pro, it shifted the colors slightly and it made it a little bit more contrasty. So I don't know if that's just because it's a free version or what have you. So what I would like to do is, if this is possible, the complete edit in Final Cut Pro, as well as the title cards, the lower thirds, whatever graphics I need to do, I'll do it in Final Cut Pro. Then I will finish color grading and export out of DaVinci, because the export is close. It's much faster than Premiere, and it's just as fast as Final Cut Pro. So I'm okay with that. So yeah, this was a rant and a talk, but that's where I'm at right now. And let me know what you think of the anamorphic talk looking session thing. I'm digging it. The lighting situation, still figuring that out. It's a little dark for the GH5. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think. And I'll be doing more talks like this. I'll catch you on the next ones. All right, y'all. I gotta get an outro for this stuff.